Hello and welcome to episode 13 of this little ongoing terrain series. My name's Chris and in this one we're going to make a few books and scrolls and that kind of thing. Basically all the things you can see here. But before we take a look at the new textures, we are going to need to make a couple of tables. So I'll just quickly run through that first. Okay then, for a wooden table we can cut out a piece of thin corrugated cardboard that's roughly 1 5/8 of an inch by 7/8 and then wrap that in the wooden plank texture from episode 6. Then we can glue some of the plain wooden texture around a regular drinking straw, like so, and when it's dry we'll need to cut out 4 legs, each of which are a ½ inch long. Then it's just a simple matter of gluing these to the underside of the tabletop, and that should result in something like this. So yeah, pretty straightforward stuff. Now for a stone table, we'll cut out a piece of the same cardboard and also a piece of foam board, and both of these need to be 1 3/4 of an inch long by 1 inch wide. Then we can use something like a piece of white polystyrene packaging or anything that's a bit thicker than the foam board and trim that to 1 1/2 inches long by 3/4 of an inch wide. Next we'll cover the cardboard and foam board with the plain stone texture from episode 2 and then cut a strip of the pillar texture that's the same width as this polystyrene piece here and then glue that around the edge. So something like this. Then all we need to do is glue one piece on top of the other and that should result in a nice little stone table. So yeah, now that's all out of the way, let's get started. Okay then, the first thing we'll need to do is add a tablecloth, and here you can see that I've cut out one of the textures and then scrunched it up a few times to make it more malleable. Then, with the trusty glue stick, we can apply some glue to the back and then drape it over the table at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so I'll just make sure that it's stuck to the sides, as well as the top, and I'll also add a slight waviness to the overhanging corners. And there you go, something like that. So I'll just quickly do the same thing for the stone table, but it's exactly the same process, so I'll speed this part up. And that's what it should look like when it's done. Right then, next we're going to need to make a few things to put on those tables, and to start things off, I've cut out a 1 1/2 inch length of the bottle pattern. Then, around a ½ inch in from one end, we'll need to make a small cut from the top down to the lighter portion of the texture. And then simply trim away the excess from the longer side. Next, starting at the wider end, we'll roll the paper into a tight tube, unravel it, and then apply some glue to the back. Then, taking a bit more care this time, we'll roll the piece tightly back together, doing our best to keep the ends nice and straight. And there you go. When we're done, we should end up with a nice little bottle that looks something like this. Okay, for the candles it's a very similar process, except that this time we'll need to cut a 1 inch length. So around 1/4 of an inch in from one end we'll make a similar cut from the top that only includes the dark portion of the texture. And just like before, we'll cut away the excess from the longer side so that we end up with something like this. Then we can roll it up nice and tight, apply some glue to the back and then carefully roll it back into shape. And there you go. It can be a little tricky, but it's fairly straightforward. Anyway, on their own, the candles don't look all that great. So next we're going to make a candlestick. And for this, we'll need to cut out a 1 inch by 1/4 inch strip of the gold texture. Then we'll just apply some glue to half of that, and then wrap it around the toothpick. And the idea here is not to glue it to the toothpick, but rather to create a small hollow tube that we can slide off like this. Then we can glue more of the same texture to a piece of thin cardboard, use a hole punch to punch out a few small circles, and then use a foam mat and something with a round end to give both of these a slight domed shape. Though I should point out that when we're doing this, we'll need one with the texture facing up and the other facing down. Okay, so now it's time to stick it all together, and we'll do this by applying a tiny spot of hot glue to one end of the tube, like so, and then attaching that to the centre of the convex-shaped circle. So, something like this. Then we'll do a similar thing again, but this time we'll attach it to the underside of the concave-shaped circle. And there's the finished candlestick. So all that's left to do now is take one of our candles and glue it in place. And there you go. That's this piece done. Right then, now we can move on to one of the open books, and here I've glued one of the textures to a piece of thin cardboard ahead of time, and now that it's dried we can cut it to size. Then we can take one of the page textures, trim that to size, and also cut it down the centre, like that. Next we'll need to take one of the pages, fold it in half, and then bend the ends out a little, and then do the same for the other page. And then it's just a simple matter of adding a spot of hot glue to the centre of the book and gluing one of the pages in place. So, something like that. Then we can apply another spot of hot glue to the fold of the other page and then glue that on top. And there you have it. It really is that simple. So that's the open book done. Now for a closed book. Okay, first we'll take one of the cover textures and we'll glue that to a piece of thin cardboard that's been trimmed roughly to size. Then, while the glue's still wet, we'll bend the spine around a toothpick or similar, just to give us a bit of space between the two covers. So, something like that. Next, we'll need to cut out one of the page textures again, but this time we'll apply some glue to the back of the whole thing and then fold it in half. And it should end up looking something like this. Okay, so now we just need to repeat the process for another 2 pages. And there we go. So while those are drying, we can take one of our book covers and just trim that to size. Then we'll need to fold all 3 of the pages in half again, just so that they're now a single page wide. And then we'll apply some glue to the back half of one of those pages. That's the half closest to the fold, and then stick it to one of the others. And then we'll do the same thing again for the final page. Okay, so now that we've got the cover and the pages done, all we need to do next is apply a thin line of glue along the inside of the spine, like so, and then glue the pages in place. And there you go, another little book. It's nothing special, but it's not too bad. Okay, the last couple of things we're going to make are a few scrolls, and here I am just cutting both of the images to size. Then we'll take the larger of the 2, apply some glue to the back, and then simply fold it in half. And while the glue's still wet, you can also bend it, or fold it, or even roll it into whatever shape you like. And as you can see, I've gone with the classic scroll shape. Then we can apply some glue to the back of the smaller piece and simply roll that into a tube. And this should work reasonably well for a simple rolled up parchment. Right then, so that's how to make all the different bits and pieces. Now all we need to do is glue a few of them to a table or something similar. So here I am using the glue gun to fix one of the candlesticks in place, and there we go. Then we can use a glue stick to add a couple of different books, so something like that. Though I will go back to the glue gun to stack another one on top, and then add a few of the scrolls around the edges. Now, obviously, it's up to you how many things you glue in place, but I'll go ahead and add one of the bottles, and I'll use a pair of tweezers to help with that. And while we're at it, I think we'll also include a few of the rolled up scrolls. So yeah, for the sake of this demonstration, I think this table has a little bit of everything. So there's the last one going on now, and when we're done, we should, with any luck, end up with something that looks like this. Anyway, as I say, you don't always need to cram quite so much stuff onto these pieces, and as a quick example, here's the stone table with just one book and a couple of candlesticks. However, I've also included a few decorative floor tiles in the PDF file, and we can use those to make a few random treasure piles, like this one here. And I think that's it for this one. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you're still finding some of this stuff useful, and if you are, let me know in the comments below. So yeah, thanks again, and bye for now.